News.
Well, it was a good night for the NBA last night, and kind of ironically for Rudy Gobert. He was the first player to test positive.
That's right.
Back in March.
That's right.
Which prompted the NBA shutdown. Obviously, a really unfortunate scene of him, rubbing the microphones, and then he tested positive.
Got a lot of heat for that.
Well, yes. I mean, if we can remember back to that time, we were all very uninformed, mostly as a country, about what was going on. Well, last night, he kicked things off by scoring the first points of the NBA restart as the Jazz took on the Pelicans.
God,
and then
he's so good defensively.
He continued to have a great game. He put up 14 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 blocks, including a massive block on Zion Williamson. And he was clutch in the final seconds. He sunk 2 free throws to clinch the win for Utah. Donovan Mitchell had 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists.
When I went to a Jazz game this year in person, when you go to those games in person, he is so fundamentally important, not just for defense, because he's a great defensive player. He's the best rim protector in the league. But offensively, he is so long and intuitive that if you get down on the shot clock to 5, throw it up, he just has he's like Bill Russell. He's got a sense of where everybody is on the floor as the ball's in the air. He is a
very fluid player.
He's like JaVale McGee, but more gifted offensively. He's got a real offensive game. He really, at the end of the game, won the game for him.
Yeah, he did. I mean, those free throws were what clinched the game. It was really, the Pelicans were leading most of the game. They're up by 16 points. I mean, they blew that
Wouldn't
game.
you put Zion in for 2.5 minutes?
Of course.
I didn't get it.
Of course. Look, we're all dealing with a new NBA when it comes to managing these
unknowns,
injuries, and Kawhi Leonard and load management, and obviously we don't know what's going on with Zion. But I mean, while you're saying it's a playoff atmosphere, it is playoffs for the Pelicans. They're trying to get in, so they need to win that game. Yes. It's not just a warm-up game like it is for Utah or for the Lakers or the Clippers. Like they needed to win that game. It was a must-win game for them. So I don't know why Zion wasn't out there. I'm with you. I don't understand protecting him unless the doctors are specifically saying he cannot do it. I guess you have to follow that, but they blew that game regardless. So Giannis has only one more year on his deal with the Bucks, and he could choose to make a big move next summer. But Charles Barkley is hoping that they can win it all this year in an attempt to keep him in Milwaukee.
Yeah, that concerns me. We'll have another Kevin Durant situation, and we really don't want that. I think it'd be great for basketball if the Bucks won, because Giannis is such a great kid. And Milwaukee is one of the most underrated cities in the NBA. I think it was great that Toronto won the championship. It was great for the NBA. And I think it'll be great if Milwaukee won it this year.
I don't disagree with that, by the way. I'm not rooting for Giannis to leave. It is better if you had, listen, the Packers being great in the NFL or the Colts during Peyton Manning, the middle of the country. Kansas City Chiefs is great for the league. When you can have this heart of when the Big Ten has good football and the SEC hates them and the West Coast can acknowledge them.
Does that work the same way in the NBA?
I think you know what I think matters in the NBA? I think there's a vibe, a feel that everybody counts. And I do think the NBA can be a little glamour coastal. I think one of the reasons the NFL is king. New Orleans is great. Baltimore, Kansas City, Green Bay. It doesn't feel like in the NFL there's a glamour league and then everybody else.
No, there are some glamour teams like the Cowboys.
Yes. But they don't win that much, and a lot of free agents choose other places.
Sure, but I just don't know if I think that's the same in the NBA.
I don't think it's on a daily basis.
It hasn't really been that way. If you think about it, because we talk about people complaining about dynasties all the time in the NBA. But if you really look at who wins the NBA championship, it's mostly the same teams.
In a weird way, I think I'm rooting for Milwaukee because I get so tired of this. The Midwest fans. Nobody talks about us. It's like, victimhood of the Midwest. Packers, MJ's Bulls, Peyton Manning's Colts, the Midwest, Ohio State football, LeBron in Cleveland, the Midwest isn't represented. Kansas City just won a championship. They'll probably win 9 more.
I have no problem with Giannis staying with the Bucks, even if they don't win this year, right?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with
because
it.
I think we're being too dramatic about him having to win this year. Giannis is still very young. He's got plenty of time to start winning championships. We're before we start putting the real pressure on, no. But if he doesn't win a championship this year, it's almost like of all the teams, I think the Bucks have the most pressure on them. Like, I don't think there's any pressure on the Clippers or the Lakers. Either team that wins will be like, okay, they got a great run.
Clippers have a little
if the Clippers
heat.
don't make the finals,
It's not great.
it's not great, but it's not like all of the pressure is on them. I feel like all the pressure is on the Bucks this year.
And if Milwaukee wins, though, I never want to hear another Midwest fan say, nobody talks about us. I've said before, I love the Midwest. I fly over it all the time.
They face the Celtics today at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. That'll be a good game. So the Cowboys didn't get a long-term extension done with Dak in time for the season, as we know, but Stephen Jones is still confident that Dallas will get their quarterback locked in long-term.
Had a great visit with him at the deadline. We pushed to try to have a few more changes here and there to see if we could get it done. But he's got such a great outlook on the Dallas Cowboys. So we're fired up about it and still have nothing but 100% belief in Dak and his future here with the Dallas Cowboys, and that we can ultimately get a deal done.
Oh,
he's
God.
special. As Jerry and I have said, we're 110% behind him and ultimately feel like we'll get this done.
So I had to spend a year and a half talking about it. Now I have to spend another year talking about it? Can't we just have a year of no Dak
the contract that will
talk?
never end.
Oh, I'm over Dak money talk.
But they did admit that it was the years that was the major
They
issue.
offered him
Dak
106.
wants
Yes.
4 years. They want 5 so he can hit free agency sooner. And they admitted that COVID did play a role eventually in the negotiations as well, because they don't know what's going to happen with the cap next year. There could be a lot of changes. Yeah, I mean, we know he's going to be playing under the franchise tag this year, $31.4 million. But apparently we will be back to that contract talk sooner than we know it.
God. I mean, it's, Mahomes, we didn't spend one day on it.
No,
Not
we
a
literally
day.
didn't.
Wentz,
Like,
not
we
a
would
day.
mention it in passing, like, oh, eventually we'll start talking about Mahomes' contract.
Dak has been, seriously, I feel like it's a movie trailer.
It's
They run
Groundhog
for a
Day.
year and a half before the movie comes out.
It's Groundhog Day.
Tedious. All right, Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping.
NBA last night, and 2 games, lots of stars, both came down to the final shot. The look of it is absolutely fantastic. I mean, I am shocked how good it is. Every friend I have that already likes the NBA, don't pretend you like the NBA criticizing it. You were never into it. Go to your last 100 posts on the NBA. It was fantastic. The intensity was, I thought it was, I had to remind myself more than once it was not a playoff game. I mean, the games were intense. Guys were into it. LeBron barking at the refs. I keep forgetting we got 8 of these warm-up games into the playoffs. I thought it was fantastic. It felt like a playoff game. There's a couple, 2 or 3 things I have watched so far in the pandemic that have felt like the real thing. I think the UFC fights feel like the real thing. I thought last night felt like the real thing. And let me just say, I think MLS has done a very good job. But UFC and the NBA have an advantage. They're both indoors, and they're both loud. UFC is guys on the ground, fighting, pushing, pumping, and announcers. There's constant action in UFC, so you have to constantly describe it. Basketball is indoors. The octagon in an NBA court, there's a spotlight on it, not the crowd. In the NBA, there's constant action. There's no pauses. So the play-by-play guys never stop. There's the sneakers. There's the arguing. So this visceral connection I have to it, it's visual, it's audio, UFC and basketball. You're getting constant play-by-play, constant noise, sneakers, punches, octagon, banging around. And I'm in. I am into it. There's not a lot of pauses in UFC. If you're pausing, you're getting hit. In basketball, there's not a lot of pauses. I imagine, hockey may have some of this too. I haven't watched the hockey yet, but I thought overall it was really, really good. I'm kind of blown away by the MLS. I'm kind of blown away by UFC, blown away by NASCAR. I've really been blown away by all of it. I just sit there and I'm like, tip of the cap. I'm seeing people struggle in the airlines. I'm seeing all sorts of industries not get it right. Sports and tech are flourishing. Here's LeBron after.
We're 2 teams in the same city. And 2 teams that's fighting for one common goal, and that's to win a championship and bring it to the city of Los Angeles and their respective fan base. So, you have just so many competitors on the floor. Going out there and representing the purple and gold, representing Laker Nation, and those guys doing the same thing for their fan base. No matter what the cause is, no matter what the bubble is, no fans or fans. Basketball is basketball, and competitive spirit is competitive spirit. So we got right back to where we left off.
And I'll say it again. One of the advantages for the bubble, NBA travel is a schloid. It is hard.